So my name is Robert. I'm at the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at KTH in Stockholm, Sweden. So the title of the whole webinar is kind of the future of cybersecurity in the energy sector. My focus will be on the research. So what is being done currently in this research and what has been done in the recent years. So let me first start by talking about the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, which is something that many companies and organizations and especially researchers are aiming for. So almost everyone is talking about these goals. And it could be for sustainable cities or transportation, but today we're focusing on goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. And if we look into this goal, we can see that it's digital solutions that kind of drive this the progress in order to reaching this goal. When I talk to other researchers or organizations, it's almost all projects where they talk about energy, there's some kind of software or digital solution involved. It could be anything from an app to change the behavior of the users or some kind of optimization algorithm or something, but it's almost all the time digital solutions. And if we look into the scientific domain, last year I found more than 2,000 papers addressing digitalization in this area of clean and renewable energy. So there's a lot of efforts being put into this. As we can also see from the European Union with these type of projects like EnergyShield, for example. So that's really good. But at the same time, we see news like these almost every week or every month about cyber attacks happening. And the energy sector is not spared in any way. It's rather the opposite. It's becoming more and more of a target. These 3 news pieces I pulled up are all from basically the near future, just the last couple of months, May and June, where we can see the energy sector being targeted in cyber attacks. So a question that we as researchers ask ourselves is, how come this happens over and over again? So one sense, we kind of know security and what we're supposed to do. But at the same time, these attacks are successful quite a lot. So one of the reasons that we're looking into is complexity. Even what looks like the simplest kind of IoT product or software is really complex. So if we look at this picture I have here, it's a representation of Google Chrome. So Google Chrome, it's a web browser, but still it contains more than 60,000 software files with code in it. And these 60,000 files, they're all dependent on each other in a quite complex network. What we see in this figure are all the blue dots are all the direct dependencies, and the big red box called the core, those are files that all are indirectly or directly dependent on each other. So everyone is connected basically, and that's more than 24,000 files. So this complexity makes it really hard for one person, a software developer, to make changes that does not infer bugs that can be used as vulnerabilities in other files. So it's quite clear that you can keep track of your own file that you're working in and maybe the neighboring files that you depend on or that depend on you, but you can't keep track of 24,000 files that might be affected if you make a change. And what we saw in one of our papers listed below here is that most of the vulnerabilities in Google Chrome, which are more than 2,000 known vulnerabilities, were related to the files that were that had the most dependencies, so being in the complex part of the software. So that's just one application. If we look at a medium-sized or a large company, you have thousands of applications. And these all depend on each other as well. What we see here is kind of a software portfolio from a company where all the applications are dependent on each other in an equally complex network. And of course, this makes it really hard for a company to kind of defend against attacks, because there's so many entry points to keep track of. And the attackers, they only need to find one, basically. So also on an enterprise level, it's really complex. If we then talk about the future, these sustainable development goals with sustainable cities and renewable energy, etc., what we see is an even increased complexity when everything is supposed to be connected to everything. So it's no longer just one software or even one company's software portfolio. It's everyone. It's consumers and cars and cloud environments and hospitals and energy systems, kind of sharing data and sharing functions and all kinds of things. So this complexity is just increasing all the time. So we need to start thinking about how to deal with this, especially when it comes to then security. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of our most recent experiments and then in the end related to energy. So we did it's a rather small study, but a honeypot experiment. We set up 6 honeypots looking like kind of regular IoT products. And in just a few days, we got thousands of successful attacks on these IoT devices. It's not very surprising. We kind of knew that. There's a lot of these hacking bots just looking for new IP addresses that they can explore. What we did was we installed some kind of basic security features, like if this honeypot is in the US, you're not supposed to be able to log into it from China or Sweden. So a geographical kind of ban. And also if you fail to log in with the right password twice, then you're kicked out. So very simple things. And what we saw was a dramatic decrease, of course, in successful attacks. But I think the interesting point here is rather there are always these bots succeeding anyway. And if we then install some more advanced security features, what we've seen, not in our study, but what others have seen, is that there's still bots getting through. So this is important to remember, that even if you work with your perimeter security, there's always a risk that even a bot gets through. We also did a phishing study where we had some people with not super users and not non-technical people either, but some kind of normal user people. And we set up 8 spoofed sites, so trying to trick them. And then we had 9 regular legitimate websites. And then we asked them that, okay, can you tell us if this site that we're showing you, if it's spoofed or if it's real? So they knew that they were looking for spoofed sites. And we also did, we were asking them what kind of strategy they were using to make their decision. But I think what's interesting here is, even though they knew that they were in kind of a phishing study, a lot of people got things wrong. So we can see for spoofed site number 5, half of the people got it wrong. They thought it was a real site. And for the real site number 5, half of them thought it was a spoofed site. So this kind of shows that it's really hard to defend yourself completely against these kind of attacks. So not only will bots get through, there will also be a risk that users let other people in. Just a few years ago, this is from 2017, we did a study looking at software weaknesses, software vulnerabilities in embedded systems used in the power domain. The kind of idea was that, okay, there are known vulnerabilities in these type of systems. So in RTUs and PLCs and these OT environments, there are known vulnerabilities out there. What we did in the study was trying to figure out, okay, what are common denominators for these vulnerabilities? So are there, for instance, weaknesses that are more common that we then can address in order to kind of decrease or avoid getting these vulnerabilities? What I want to highlight here is that, so if a bot gets through, or a phishing attack or some other kind of attack, once they get into the systems, there are vulnerabilities. Some are known, some are probably unknown to the public, but these systems also have vulnerabilities. Just like Google Chrome has more than 2,000 known vulnerabilities, these systems have them too. So in the coming sessions, there will be a lot of talk about threat modeling and attack simulations, because that's kind of what we do in the EnergyShield project. This is a study that we did a few years ago before EnergyShield, where we were looking into basically load balancing as the function, but we had a smart grid kind of architecture, a system model, where we then did a threat model and attack simulations. And what we did was, we, as you can see on the right side, we developed a couple of scenarios where we placed the attacker both on the internet coming from outside, but if the attacker comes also from the kind of inside the company, what kind of damage can they do? And if we then choose certain mitigation strategies, how much better is it? So we developed a set of scenarios that we tested this on. You will get more information about this kind of methodology in the coming sessions. So the EnergyShield project, it's a EU Horizon 2020 research and innovation project. The aim is to provide, in the end of the project, an integrated cybersecurity solution for vulnerability assessment, monitoring, and protection of critical energy infrastructures. What we focus on, besides the threat modeling and attack simulations, is we have partners, experts in, for instance, security culture, of course, encryption and anomaly detection and DDoS mitigation, and then trying to have these working together through a information and event management system. That's kind of the idea with EnergyShield, where KTH and foreseeti mainly focus on the threat modeling and attack simulations. The EnergyShield project has gotten a lot of attention, especially in Sweden, because of a press release from KTH saying that KTH researchers will hack European energy systems. And I want to tell you a little bit about this story. So what we do at KTH, besides the research in threat modeling, is also we do a lot of ethical hacking or penetration testing. So we have students, for instance, buying regular consumer IoT products like smart locks or electric scooters or vacuum cleaners with video cameras or car dongles. And then their project is basically trying to find vulnerabilities and hack these products, which of course, when they succeed, we get a lot of media attention about it. But these are things that we do. And one idea with the EnergyShield project is basically to use ethical hacking or penetration testing as a research method to test if the EnergyShield toolkit is any good. So there's a lot of these research and innovation projects where you develop new tools, new methodologies, frameworks, what have you. But how do we make sure that they actually work? And how can we, from a scientific side, prove this? So that's where we thought ethical hacking would come into play. So what we're saying is that we want to hack. We have pilot cases in the EnergyShield project with the companies in Bulgaria and in Italy, where now we're 1 year into the EnergyShield project, and we're coming to a point where we want to do the first set of penetration testing. So basically, as a base case, before using the toolbox, use penetration testing to see how resilient the infrastructure is. Then let these pilots use the EnergyShield toolkit to improve their infrastructure and make good decisions. And then once they have their improved case, then we use hacking methodologies to test this again to see, well, how much better is it? So hacking to validate as a research methodology. That is the idea. Yes, some conclusions from my side. I think that you will never be 100% secure. There will always be type of attacks that will be successful. So what you need to think about is how to kind of design the architecture, your systems or systems of systems. How can you design them so it's both hard to get in, but once you get in, it should be really hard to move around, and specifically to get deep into the architecture where hopefully your most critical assets are located. Because this will give you time to both discover the breach and stop it, and also to collect forensic evidence, and hopefully the damage that is being done is on parts of the architecture that is not super important for you. So that's one take-home lesson. Another thing that I've learned during both EnergyShield and other projects, it's really important to cooperate with others. I think in the energy sector specifically, you should spend a lot of focus trying to learn from each other and learn from, well, both academia and private companies, and especially from each other. So because you don't have to compete in security, you should compete in providing the best energy solutions, the most sustainable energy solutions. So cooperation is really important. And then remembering that there's a mix here of kind of regular IT and OT, operation technology. So providing a architecture that takes this into account. So how to deal with these kind of regular IT systems where there are a lot of known vulnerabilities, and it's hard to patch and make sure that these all disappear, while you have the OT environment where the vulnerabilities are usually not known to public, and how to divide that in a good way. And then finally, when you develop these new solutions for instance, the Sustainable Development Goals, make sure that these are secure solutions from the start. So in these industrial IoT kind of revolution, make sure that already in the design phase takes security into consideration. We've seen a lot of examples where companies, they focus on the functionality and the performance and things like that. And then of course, when it works in a good way, you have to go out into market quickly, because that's how you earn money. And security is kind of forgotten, or it started too late. So that's also one of my messages here. Make sure that you involve security from the beginning. Yes, thank you.